Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to SF Live. I'm Myrna Lim, your host. Today, you should have been receiving your ballots in the mail. Election is November 8th. However, the absentee ballots are out. There's a lot of propositions on the ballot. Most importantly, we have three very important positions that are leadership positions in the city and county of San Francisco. We have the mayor's race, we have the sheriff's race, and we have the race for the new district attorney. And also, we have a number of propositions that involve students, where they're going, and how the students will get to choose which schools they will go to. Tonight, we have the president of Students First, Chris Miller, whose organization is the main proponent of Proposition H. Let's hear about Proposition H from Chris. How are you, Chris? How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Great. Okay, let's talk about Proposition H.
Sure, absolutely. So just to give a brief overview of Prop H, which will appear on this November 8 ballot, or for those of you that have already received your absentee ballots, that is now currently on your ballot for consideration. And I'm the chairman of an organization called Students First. It was founded roughly 2 years ago. It's a San Francisco-based parent-led organization that is also comprised of non-parents that are concerned about education reform and our political school system and things that are surrounding our political education system here in San Francisco. Basically, we have a current student assignment system that has been evolving. It's a moving target of sorts over the last couple decades, and currently we have what is called a citywide lottery to determine what schools children will attend in elementary, middle school, and high school. There are various considerations that go into that. In elementary school, there are 4 considerations. One is first priority is siblings attending the same school, and these are only siblings that are within the same age range, meaning if they're both in elementary school, middle school, or high school. The second consideration is whether or not students are attending a publicly funded preschool here in the city, not any preschool in the city, but just publicly funded preschools in the city. The third consideration is which census tract the family is currently residing in. And the fourth and last consideration is neighborhood proximity to the school, or rather the school that's closest to the home of the student in question. For middle school and high school, it is just a citywide lottery, and there's no consideration whatsoever for neighborhood proximity to the school. And a lot of people that we've spoken to, when we gathered roughly 14,000 signatures to get this ballot initiative on the ballot, I'd say probably about 85 to 90% of the people that we spoke to, and most of which supported this, were very shocked to hear that neighborhood proximity to a school was not a consideration in some schools, and was a last consideration. In some cases, wasn't considered at all for many students here in San Francisco. So just a little bit of data there behind Proposition H and why it was qualified for the ballot, why we're fighting so hard to reform the current student assignment system. There are thousands of parents that are very unhappy with it. And there's also some other issues involved in that. Basically, what Prop H will do is it will make a provision for neighborhood proximity of a home to a school a higher priority, or the highest only under siblings attending the same school. So basically, it'll be a higher priority, and in some cases, it will be a priority at all. There is a large percentage of parents here in the city that were not only not given their neighborhood school choice if they had opted that, but that had gone through the appeal process multiple times and had not been given the option of going to a school near their home. A large percentage of children are also being bused across town, primarily on muni buses. Some of them are dealing with transfers. These are young kids. I mean, in my neighborhood alone, in the Richmond district, I see children that are 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 getting off of the public bus system by themselves. I know many parents are very concerned about that. And this is a common sense measure. It does not make sense if you cannot justify not being able to allow parents to send their children to a neighborhood school, then why do we still have this archaic system in place that is not allowing for that? Right. And why is our school board not taking responsibility for it? And basically, Prop H is parents and voters being able to compel or force the school district and the school board to take responsibility for a failed system that is costing money. It's causing problems for families. undue financial hardship, transportation issues. It's wasting millions of dollars annually on youth bus passes that are being, within certain households that are being paid for by voters here in the city. And it's also costing hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and staff for the appeal process that's unnecessary for parents that are not able to send their children to their neighborhood school. So there's many reasons to support this initiative.
Who are supporting the initiatives now, as far as public officials or organizations?
Sure. So the neat thing is that many of the neighborhood-based organizations, small business, realtors associations. So right now we do have a number of mayoral candidates that are supporting this initiative. And I'd love to name them because I think that this is definitely what you'd call a wedge issue. Okay. During a crucial election, we have many candidates running for office. I believe it's 16 candidates on the ballot for mayor. Jeff Adachi, our current public defender, is a longtime supporter of Prop H and neighborhood schools. Okay. Also, Joanna Reese. Michaela Alioto-Pierre and Tony Hall. There are some other candidates that support it as well, but those are the mayoral candidates that support it. Right. Phil Ting and Leland Yee had originally supported this for over a year and had rescinded their support within days of the teachers union becoming the official opposition to it. So I think you can kind of do the math on that one. And we also have endorsements of many organizations. Just a few to name would be the SF Chamber of Commerce, which is that's definitely an honor. And also the Chinese American Democratic Club, the City Democratic Club, the SF Association of Realtors, and obviously Students First, a couple of other organizations. So that's, Plan C is another, very politically involved organization of some amazing, leaders within our community. So we do have a lot of support. The main thing to remember is that this proposition was qualified on the ballot by concerned parents, that it just had it. And I think it's wonderful that there is a mechanism for voters and parents to reform any system here in the city. Most importantly, the public education system. It's a very difficult thing to do, and I think that it's extremely important, not something to be taken lightly. And this is the first education reform initiative on the ballot in a couple decades.
The Board of Education.
So basically, the Board of Education is not in support of this ballot initiative because this policy statement, this ballot initiative, is in direct opposition to their failed student assignment system that's now in place. So this is basically a parents and voters legislative mechanism for us to come in and say, this is a failed system. This is what's been happening within the system for the last few years. You're moving further and further away from a neighborhood schools-based system, which is what they had originally agreed to do, to focus on a neighborhood school-based system. And just recently, they took away the neighborhood proximity consideration for both middle school and high school. So explain to me how they are keeping their promises. And how they are moving further away from a neighborhood school-based system and telling us something else. So parents' input has not been listened to over the last 2 decades. I know this is an issue that many people have seen come out in the media, in the press. The Examiner and the Chronicle and the Bay Guardian and many others, including news stations, here in August around the first day of school, were really covering the student assignment system heavily. It's a difficult system to make everyone happy. But there is no viable reason why they should be refusing to allow families to send their children to a school that's 2 blocks from their home. And I'm a mother as well. I'm a mother of 2. I'm a full-time single mom, so I'm not someone who is doing this for political reasons. I'm doing this because in the last 4 years I've lived here in the city and grown up, in this area. I have had to go through this appeal process twice, and I'll be doing it again next year with my son. He'll be going into kindergarten. So my son is, my daughter was in the public education system here as well. They lost her registration to Marina Middle School while I was going through the appeal process for Presidio, 2 blocks from my home.
It's terrible.
When we showed up to school on August 15th, the first day of school, they had lost her registration. They wouldn't take responsibility for it, and they placed her in Visitation Valley. Their response was that their legal obligation was only to send my children to a public school, not a school that was convenient for me. So it's, it causes financial issues. It puts the burden on the parents. We have to work. My kids start school at the same time. I live in the Richmond. I can't, drive 50 minutes each way every day.
Right.
Can't get her in an after school care program because it's, too late of notice.
Right.
So it's really causing logistical problems for families, and time that children should be spending on studying, spending time with their families or extracurricular activities, they're spending in transit to schools that their parents don't necessarily want to send them to, that are not convenient.
I would imagine there should be a lot of support for the proposition, right?
Sure, there is absolutely a lot of support for this proposition, and I'll be frank with you. I met with you on your show many months ago, just after this had gotten, this proposition had gotten qualified for this November ballot. And we had no official public opposition, and we'd been asking the school board for a response, the teachers union for a response, and many other groups, and had received no response at all. About 6 or 7 weeks ago, out of the blue, the United Educators Association, or rather, for those of us that are not familiar with the group, the teachers union here in San Francisco, made the decision without a vote from actual teachers here in San Francisco, which we have received a tremendous amount of support from. They made the decision to run the official campaign against Proposition H, which supports neighborhood schools. It's surprising, given that at least 1,000 of the signatures we got out of the 14,000 to get this ballot proposition qualified were from former and current teachers, former administrators, those in leadership positions with the community colleges, etc. So that's also a misrepresentation of the teachers, because many of our supporters from the very beginning, a year and a half, 2 years ago, were actual teachers. And I know a lot of teachers are very surprised by that. The teachers union is giving a couple key reasons why they have decided to oppose this. And I mean, if I'd love to briefly go over some of those and address them.
Yes.
So, so there's a mailer that that went out to I believe 3/4 of the households in San Francisco, and this was put out by the Campaign Against Proposition H, the Neighborhood Schools Initiative, by the teachers union, and basically it's your typical kind of political propaganda, and I'd love to
go ahead, please.
I'd love to respond to it directly with facts rather than speculation. So
yes, knock it out.
So I know that most voters can appreciate a fact-based argument for or against something. So the first reason for, and basically their whole campaign is let parents decide, which is ironic considering the fact that thousands of parents in the city for decades have been unhappy with this current system. And parents are the ones who have decided that they want to be the ones to decide, and they want the support of voters to decide whether or not this is something that makes sense, whether this is a common sense based reform initiative. So that's one piece that is obviously not valid. They're saying that this is a misguided, ill-conceived, unnecessary, costly initiative that will be on the ballot. Well, what's costly is spending 10 years changing a system and attempting to revamp a system and getting further and further away from common sense and things that parents are actually asking for or that they need. Costing voters more money, and then making the argument that we've spent so much money on the system, and even though it's failing, we don't want to change it now that we've spent so many hundreds of thousands of taxpayers' dollars on it, is not a reason not to reform a system that is clearly broken and failing parents and students. They're also saying it's taking away parents' rights. So this ballot proposition, all that it's asking is that neighborhood proximity from a home to a school is given a higher priority than it is right now, or a priority at all in the cases where it's not an option. It is not taking away the entire citywide lottery, which is essentially school choice, where parents can opt any one of their 7 choices, and it's really it really is that it's a lottery. Parents sometimes don't find out until August what school that their children are going to attend, a good number of parents. So this does not in any way take away parents' rights. It actually gives parents more rights in addition to some that have been taken away from them. Another argument against Prop H by the teachers union is that it will cause chaos in our schools. They're saying that this will be effective in this current school year, which is not possible for 2 reasons. One, this is a policy statement. So this is something that will compel the school board and the school district to change the current policy to give higher consideration to neighborhood schools. it will not force them to change any policies in the middle of the school year. So that is actually a false statement on the mailer that they've sent out. And the second reason is that the assignments to the schools have already been closed as of September 9th.
Oh, wow.
So any letters that were received, any appeals that went through, that's all set in stone at this point, unless there is a student that is coming from outside of the district or transferring from a private school into a public school. So that statement is incorrect on 2 counts. A third reason that they're giving against Prop H is that it's a costly mistake. The controller's statement just came out that you will find in your ballot booklet if you care to kind of check that piece out. And I know a lot of voters say, hey, I don't have children, I don't plan on having children, or I won't be having children for a while. Why should I be concerned about this? If you're concerned about the financial aspect of it and how how taxpayers' dollars or how your property taxes are being spent, the controller's statement specifically states that this will not cost voters any additional money. This will not cost the school district additional funds. And I can take it one step further with just what little research Students First has done. There's actually an initiative that passed that was lobbied by the school district and the Board of Supervisors this past February this year for 12,000, just over 12,000 free SFMTA youth bus passes to be issued to low-income families here in San Francisco. This is costing to the tune of $480,000 every 3 months. So if you do the math, that's over $1 million annually. That is going to continue, and this was in direct response to the current student assignment system and the financial impact that had on the families in the city. So not only is the school district making decisions that are affecting their budget, they are also making decisions that affect other budgets and other departments within the city, and that's a problem. And that is really just a matter of transparency and accountability, how these dollars are being spent, whether or not it's necessary, and a very good portion of that, $1.3 million that's being spent annually will not be spent if parents are given the option of sending their children to their neighborhood school if they so choose. Also, as I had stated before, there will be less staff, less resources used on this ridiculous 5 to 6 month appeal process that starts in about February and can go on until the end of August and even until the middle of September of a school year. This is a huge staff that they have to take care of this. They've not been able to justify, these holes in the system, why they're spending so much money on this, why they're continuing to do this and not allowing parents to send their children to the neighborhood school if they want to. And there's also the issue of all of the legal battles that go on and the, legal counsel that taxpayers are paying for within the school district to respond to lawsuits that the school district is incurring. And their fourth reason that they're giving, and this is the favorite of the school board, that they've not been publicly using too much during this campaign. I'm not sure what the reason for that is because they haven't responded to our questions to that effect, but they're saying that this squashes diversity in our schools. The interesting thing is I met with Melissa Griffin of the Examiner and the League of Women Voters a couple of weeks ago to talk about this initiative and give them some fact-based considerations for Prop H rather than, emotional or, false considerations. And it's interesting, over the last 10 years, under the current student assignment system that includes the citywide lottery and low to no consideration for neighborhood proximity to a school, we're actually moving further away from resegregation, meaning we are less diverse now than we were 10 years ago. So explain to me how, if we are moving the system further away from neighborhood schools, and it's a fact, how doing the opposite of that or altering that in the opposite direction is going to cause the problem to continue or further, make the problem continue within the school district. So that's not valid. This is not a race issue. This is not a political party issue. There are people on both sides of the fence. We libertarians, Republicans, Democrats, independents. There's a tremendous amount of swing voters here. In San Francisco, I believe it's close to 30% of declined to state voters registered here in San Francisco. Wow. Many of them have supported getting this initiative on the ballot. 14,000 signatures is not a small.
That's a lot of work.
That's the voice of voters, and that was parent volunteers going out to get support.
How long did it take you to get all those?
It took us roughly 7 months because rather than having a huge staff of people that we were paying to go out there and get the signatures, most of the people that we had going out and getting the signatures to get this ballot initiative qualified were actually parents and leaders here in the city that have really wanted to support this for years.
Right.
So it's really just the first of hopefully many education reform initiatives that will be put on the ballot by actual voters that want their voice to be heard. And my hope is that not only that this passes, obviously, that common sense will prevail and that voters will support this, but also that this will spur a number of other initiatives over the next couple of years to really take a closer look at our school system, why it's failing, why we have such a high percentage of schools here in the city that for over 10 years have been underperforming.
Right.
And, basically the school district is making this into an issue of, well, what we're concerned about is if we allow people to go to school near their homes, that may take seats away from children that are automatically being entitled to seats in better schools. That may take the option of them going to those better schools or perceived better schools away from those children.
Right.
And my response to that is, why would the school district not be actively and aggressively improving those schools that have been underperforming for years within Bayview, Hunters Point, and the Mission, Visitation Valley, and all of these areas that we hear about constantly? Why are they not separating these issues, doing their job effectively, and taking these two issues away from one another rather than refusing parents to go to their neighborhood school?
We're running out of time, so
Yeah.
you want to say how to contact you?
Sure, absolutely. So Students First is the official proponent of Prop H. If you'd like some more information on the proposition, you can either check out our website at www.sfstudentsfirst.org. You can also email me.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. 22 minutes goes so fast. And hopefully we'll see you again next time. And please do not forget to vote. Get those absentees in. Just fill them out easy and then send them right back. You don't even have to pay for the mailing. Thank you so much. Good night.